Hello and welcome to Climbing Daily. Now, ages ago we caught up with Adam Ondra at the Blockhelden gym in Germany to talk to him about one thing, his incredibly quick ascent of the Dawn Wall.
I'm Adam Ondra, I'm a professional climber and I climb a lot. I boulder, I sport climb, sometimes I compete, sometimes I go into the big walls, like last year into Yosemite Valley. I've always wanted to go to Yosemite. Like, ever since I first saw the pictures of it, it's the mecca of big walls, right? And I'm almost embarrassed that it took me so many years to finally make it there. And when you think about Yosemite and the hardest route, the Dawn Wall is the most obvious challenge. Like, I think you can say that the Dawn Wall is considered to be the hardest free climb big wall in the world. And it might sound like a little too brave or not even respectful that me as a big wall beginner chose right away the hardest big wall in the world. But I wanted something challenging and I was definitely challenged. Like, in the first weeks of work on the Dawn Wall, I got my ass kicked pretty much. We pretty much arrived to the valley, and second day in the valley I just went up. I went ground up using free climbing and a little bit of aid climbing, and somehow after 4 days we battled through the route to the top, which was like the most adventurous part of the whole process. Like, you know, having almost zero tread climbing experience or relying on beaks and like not being really accustomed to this special Yosemite climbing style. It was tough, but really adventurous, and I'm definitely glad that we did not just walk around, rappelled, and tried everything on top rope. It was definitely worth it. Because just going up, ground up to the top was so challenging. I thought like the worst work was done. But then I started working on the crux pitches and I realized the climbing itself is sick as hard. And it was not about like not knowing how to move on a big wall. It was not about being scared from the exposure or not relying on the gear. It was just the climbing itself was hard. And that was maybe a little surprising to me. Especially as the first few weeks it was warm and, you know, the climbing style is very special. What I was the most afraid about was the crag climbing, but all the crag climbing on the Dawn Wall is pretty easy and I got used to it like relatively quickly. But the face climbing, well, I've been face climbing forever since, you know, and also like climbing on the vertical stuff, like my home climbing area is pretty much like that. But in terms of like footwork, it was completely different dimension. Like the feet are just so tiny. What you would normally think is like a tiny foothold is like very good foothold on the Dawn Wall. And what you would never think you would even like use as a foothold, that's like the only foothold you have to use on the crux pitches. The fact that Tommy and Kevin put all this effort, like years and years of work, and not really knowing that it goes, is like so impressive. And I can believe like there are so many sections on the crux pitches, and even in some of the easier pitches, like if you are there, you think like, no, this is impossible. And only like after studying every single tiny razor blade, sometimes the only possible beta comes on your mind. So it was so much easier for me to like solve the puzzle of each individual pitches because I knew that the guys did it. Without this knowledge, it's so hard. And it could have happened to them so easily that even after 5 years they would find out that like one section would be impossible. luckily for them and luckily for me, it didn't happen. They set the route, and I was very proud to make the first repetition. For sure, in a few years, that would be very interesting to find my own line, either on El Cap itself or somewhere else of similar size and even higher difficulty. But let's see. Now I'm back focused on the sport climbing, pushing my limits there, and well, the concept definitely interests me. I was very aware of all the media attention while I was up there on the wall, and I must admit that it made me a little stressed, that's for sure. It might have made me even a little motivated, but I was definitely stressed on day 4 and day 5 when I was battling with the crux pitches in the traverse, because it's very insecure climbing, and it's very easy to open my tip, and I would have to wait for days on the wall for this tip to heal. That's actually what happened to Kevin, so it was tough. And at the same time I knew, I think some of the people that don't have any experience with Yosemite thought it's maybe not gonna be so hard for Adam. Then they saw me fail. And then at the same time some experienced climbers from Yosemite thought he's big wall beginner, he's never ever gonna do it. So it was interesting for sure. In the end, I was definitely very proud about myself, that it was definitely a climb that took me the most out of comfort zone. I really had to try hard and learn new things and come through so many challenging moments.
Cheers for your time, Adam, and I hope you guys enjoyed that little interview. See you soon.